Alright, now we're gonna try and trigger some quest-based dialogue. If you remember previously I added an NPC here, and it seemed to work pretty well.
And wouldn't you know it, I think my back just went out on me. Really?
That's an enemy dialogue. I guess these are sort of enemies, but...
My friend Barracks, we were hunting, and I
And
thought he was
in
out.
addition to adding...
Total coincidence, I'm sure.
Either way, I came back with meat for the table.
In addition to adding an NPC here and adding scenes between her and the vanilla,
I'm your
I
friend.
wanted to try and create commentary from your companions.
Yes, I'm your friend, and I've invited you to dinner.
I've been invited to dinner. I'm so hungry.
Why don't you lay
So
down
ideally,
while we get the meal
Rumarin here is going to say something
To lay down.
as soon as the quest
just be a
gets to
minute.
stage 50, which
Come with
is
me.
kill Verilis. I could have also used the distance check, but we'll see how this one turns out. And if it turns out poorly, I'll just edit it out, along with any dick jokes and things like
Now
that.
this is going to be a good feast.
on Namira's table. Go ahead, carve.
I remember my first feast.
Now we
I
just got
envy
to
you.
kill Verilis.
Oh, just in time for dinner. What's on the menu? People again. Alright, but I'm not eating anything from below the waist.
And there you go. So ideally, this could work for any type of quest theoretically, as long as the stage is sort of matched up. I mean, you could also do it by distance as soon as you got to the table, but I didn't want him to start talking and interrupting Aola. What you want is to wait for like a quiet time so two people aren't talking over each other. And killing Verilis, as soon as that part of the quest comes up, and it'll come up for everybody regardless of who you're trying to, what you're trying to do. If you're trying to eat him or kill these people, at least you should at least get that far. And on cue, basically, Rumarin made a comment. Alright, for this next thing I'm going to show you, I needed a new save. We have our standard Nord warrior and his classic pig helmet. And we also have we should have an amulet Amara on. That's not showing here. Now, there's going to be some minor spoilers, so fair warning. This is a new character. And the thing about this character is I wanted to progress his story. I wanted to have a more natural progression of basically his backstory. And with followers we could do that because we could basically limit his dialogue to certain locations. With other characters they sort of have to tell their story where they are.
Is that an amulet of Mara?
Yes, it is.
I'm surprised someone like you is
Now the thing about this is I wanted to make some straight characters, and also I didn't want him to marry you after just meeting you. Another thing about as far as progression goes, we don't want people to marry just anybody. So what I did is I made two sets of marriage dialogue. One is this one: what are your thoughts on remarrying? This one will route to nowhere. It's just going to be another bunch of lines, and you're not going to be able to get to that next stage of the dialogue. Oh, I know why it's taking forever. This happens when you don't have a recorded line. Recently, the CK stopped skipping lines for some reason, and in any case, what was I saying? Oh, this line routes to nowhere. Now, if you actually progress with his backstory and talk to him some more and become friendly, the other marriage option will appear. But first, we need to become buddies with this guy. We also need to be a woman, so we're gonna have a quick sex change operation. Power of modern technology. Now, the reason I wanted to make him a straight character is all the other characters are bisexual, and what we want is more realistic people, and if everyone's bisexual, it's just kind of weird and lazy. So I'm probably gonna make a gay character in the future, but this one, because I wanted more female marriage options, I decided to make him straight. And because I just had a sex change, it's actually gonna trigger the female dialogue right now, which normally it wouldn't trigger the initial dialogue twice, but because I turned into a woman, just want to make sure he's still following us. And again, this delay is because he's finishing the sentence basically.
Is that an amulet of Mara? I'm
So he's
surprised
still
someone
following
like
us.
you isn't
So
spoken for.
the initial dialogue will have a reference to his old wife, his dead wife. And that's how we sort of break the surface of who he is. So this question here, what happened to your wife? He's not going to answer it and say, it's not a story I wish to share at this time. And he won't share it with you unless you go to a specific location, and we're going to go there now. It actually works with any graveyard, I believe. Dead man's drink. I initially put a condition to have it work
Come on in. Let me know if you
at,
need
at
anything.
various
Sit by the
graveyards
fire
throughout
and I'll send
Skyrim. The
something.
problem with that is what the game thinks is a cemetery is very arbitrary. I have no idea what it thinks is a cemetery because it did not work at any of the locations I tried. Alright, we're at a cemetery, and like I was saying, when I was testing earlier, oh, he's not here. When I was testing earlier, the dialogue wouldn't trigger, and I believe it's because the game doesn't think this is a cemetery, despite every indication that it is. So what I did is I put distance checks on this graveyard and a couple of the other cemeteries and major holds, and I don't have the dialogue in there right now, but ideally, like I showed with Zora earlier, he's going to say, hey, I have a conversation here, talk to me.
Is that an amulet of Mara?
So then, as you noticed,
I'm
the
surprised
unique
someone like you isn't
dialogue
spoken for.
shows up, and he's going to tell you the story of his wife. And right now, what's going to happen after he tells you the story, which I'm going to skip through in the interest of spoilers, you're going to have an option of, oh, it's not over yet. Very long story. I like telling long stories, if you haven't noticed. Now, you have the option here of saying your wife would have wanted you to move on, or, you know, this sort of thing that would make him think about his wife some more. If you choose this one, you're not going to be able to marry him, basically. He's going to just mope over his wife, and he's going to keep thinking about his dead wife. But if you choose these other options, this sort of kind of dickish one and this kind of more innocuous but friendly one, he's going to realize that, you know, it's time to move on and stuff like that. So normally it's not going to happen this quick. I mean, you're not going to get to this next location. But now, if you notice, that marriage option has a different question. And now it goes to the next section. Before, you noticed it sort of ended right after you asked him about whether he wants to remarry. This time we have the yes/no portion. And if you hit yes, the script will trigger and you can marry him. Now this character is basically an Imperial, but he's a healer, so he doesn't really have an affiliation. He doesn't like Ulfric, but if you're not married to him, he doesn't have a set location either. You notice that we found him at a Guardian Stone or Doomstone, and after that he's actually going to be at a lot of Imperial camps. So depending on your affiliation, you may not be able to recruit him there if you're a Stormcloak and the Imperials attack you, but he'll be at the Temple of Kinrith on the weekends, so you'll still be able to recruit him. I also wanted to make him handsome, but I don't know if I succeeded. I mean, I tried to put his eyes and mouth and all that in the right place, but you can never tell. I mean, because you hear women all the time, they'll say, oh, this woman's gorgeous, and she's not. And the same is, I mean, with men trying to judge other men, you just really don't know. But I hope I did my best to make him at least attractive. Alright, lastly, probably gonna have to run through this disabling people, but as this marryable, if that's a word, character is also going to be one of the ultimate followers, I want to show you how dialogue is going to be triggered by various locations. Now this was a little bit difficult because it's a 2-tier location, and what happens is that if you put a distance check on something here, like the boss, it might go all the way down here. Now you notice he's commenting on the column of light. This is actually based on the distance check on this bedroll, as opposed to the light itself, which I wasn't sure would trigger. No, there's a key. Alright, let's try to run through this as quickly as possible. We've gotten toward the end. I don't believe Valgus has any commentary here. Oh, there you are. Like Morndis will have the thief character, the thief Redguard that I showed in the last video, will have dialogue regarding the tripwires and stuff like that. But what I want to show here is sort of this kind of boss commentary. Before you fight a boss, I'd like them to talk, like right here, but it doesn't seem to be working all that well. If I wait here, it'll most certainly trigger. There we go. Yeah, and so it really depends on just random luck as if that was going to trigger. What I couldn't find an object to trigger it with, so I actually placed an idle marker somewhere in this area, which is probably something I'm going to have to do, is just place random markers to use as dialogue points and distance checks. The problem with using something in this room ahead of us as a distance check is because it's a 2-story place. So what happens is, originally I'd use a distance check, and he started commenting on the boss room from the beginning of the stage. And the grin is creepy. They gotta do something about that. Yeah. So the problem was that when we started the stage, when we entered the cave, he was making boss comments, and that's because the distance check is 3-dimensional. Basically, it's a globe instead of a circle. So you have to think about it as far as going up and down as well as left and right. And that's basically it for this developer diary. And probably just gonna finish with
These bedrolls are bunched awfully close together. I guess even orcs get lonely.
this is one more example of how cool commentary is if it's specific to a location, and that's the good thing about making these followers. I mean, it'll take a lot of time and a lot of care, but
Bandits. Maybe if we
now
ask
that's an
them
example
nicely,
right
they'll
there
leave us
of
alone.
general commentary. See, it doesn't really fit the location. There's no bandits here, but the game thinks there's a bandit camp, and that's the thing. You really want dialogue that fits the location. There's no better way than to take the time to go through each location, play the game, and look for little things here and there that are unique, and that should help immersion.